Today I'm going to tell you about how to manage ADHD. It's a little windy outside. I have a new approach here. So first I'm going to tell you about what ADHD drugs do and then the method. But first let me explain. We have two networks. I guess maybe there's more, but this perspective that I'm teaching you, there are two networks in the brain. The TPN, task positive network, that's our attention, like deliberate control and focus, external orientation. And then we have the default mode network, the DMN, and that's our mental time travel, daydreaming, our reactive state. There's some other things involved in that. It's the thing that works when you go do something else from the first thing and then you solve the problem that you had with the first thing when you're not thinking about it. That's the thing, that's the part of your brain that's at work. In ADHD, the DMN is booming. It's loud, and almost literally loud, because I've had episodes where I could be talking to somebody and I can't hear the words they're saying, or it just becomes garbled, or I'll be reading. And when I'm reading, I can't even see the words on the page. It's just that nothing's coming in. That's really bad. And so I've learned a little bit about ADHD because when I was a child, there was the diagnosis, but nobody took it seriously. We thought it was just bad kids, bad parenting, or both, right? But now we realize it's like this giant trauma-based constellation of things, and ADHD is just this little tiny part of it. You can read Gabor Mate. There was this other guy, I can't remember the book, but ADHD 2.0, I can't remember the author's name, but ADHD 2.0 was the name of the book, and that's where I got this idea for my mantra. So first, let me explain what the ADHD drugs do. Why would you give a stimulant to somebody with ADHD? My battery's about to run out. That's why I'm talking fast. I'm not having like an episode where I need to go take some Ritalin or something. ADHD drugs activate the inhibitory pathway. Your brain is like in a normal person without ADHD is like a city with a nice grid. You got your telephone wires and communications going left, right, and your traffic's moving in a nice orderly way, and you've got traffic devices and lights just directing things, and everything is in order. But in ADHD, it's like a third world country where there's no lights or police, and people are just jamming through the intersections, and the pedestrians are climbing over the cars, and the bicycles and the mopeds are coming around on the sidewalk. And so when you take the ADHD drug, the stimulant class, the stimulants stimulate the inhibitory pathway. So it's like waking up the regulatory path, like the police. It's putting the police in the intersection. So they're waving traffic and stopping the one direction and bringing in the other, and it's turning on the traffic lights and putting up the stop signs, and it's creating order. So that's why stimulants work for ADHD people. It activates the inhibitory pathway and not the excitatory pathway, which is why if you really have ADHD and you take stimulants, you'll sleep fine. Okay, so the next thing is my solution, because you can't just take ADHD drugs and not do the work. It's like any medicine for anything else. You have to do the work to make everything better. So what I've discovered is when I go into this reactive state, or daydreams, or I start to get anxious, or I lose confidence in myself because I'm thinking about a terrible outcome, or blah, 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 or I get stuck in a cycle of thoughts, or I become fixated on a thing, I just say TPN. It's like that movie with Eddie Murphy where his name was Keep It Together, KIT, keep it together. And his therapist was telling him to use that as his mantra or whatever to remind himself to keep it together. So I remind myself, TPN, and I've gotten to the point where I could just snap to it and stop that stream of thought, or that cycle, or that mass, that nebula of terrible attention and energy sucking madness and chaos in my head. So what this is doing is it's turning down the volume on the DMN and letting the TPN work. We have neuroplasticity. We can change the way we think and the way we behave and the way our brain is wired. And so that's what I'm exploiting here. The ADHD medication helps helps moderate so that my effort will work better. And then it works. That's all I got to say. It's awesome. It turns down the volume on the DMN so the TPN can work. It doesn't necessarily, this is what I don't know. I know it turns, maybe I don't know this. I was about to say it turns down the volume on the DMN, but I don't know if it turns the volume up on the TPN. Maybe it's turning the volume up on the TPN and it's turning the volume and not doing anything to the DMN. All I know right now, and I don't have a way to test any of this, all I know is using this perspective to help tame my concentration and my reactivity and help me focus better and just be a more stable, organized individual, is to moderate these volumes, meaning that the strength of the signal of the two networks. And so it doesn't really matter right now. It's just that it matters that it's working.